There is a betrayal that started everything, a secret manipulation orchestrated in the back rooms of Washington that planted a seed of hatred so deep it still grows today in every missile fired, every sanction imposed, every death to the great Satan chant echoing through the streets of Tehran. A rivalry that has come close several times to tipping into open war, and whose roots almost nobody truly knows. This is the real story of the crises between the United States and Iran, not the official version, the full one. Subscribe, share this video because understanding this conflict means understanding a large part of the contemporary world. We are in August 1953. Tehran, the capital of a country that smells of oil and scorching heat. Mohammad Mossadegh, the democratically elected Iranian prime minister, has dared to do something unthinkable in the eyes of the Western powers. He has nationalized Iranian oil. The Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, a British subsidiary that had been pumping the wealth out of the Persian subsoil for decades without redistributing much to the local population, suddenly finds itself expropriated. The British scream, they knock on Washington's door, and the CIA, under the orders of President Eisenhower, answers the call. Operation Ajax takes shape in the shadows. American and British agents buy journalists, bribe military officers, and fund demonstrations in the streets of Tehran. Crowds of angry men, paid a few rials, march against Mossadegh. Army officers flip their loyalties overnight. On August 19, 1953, the democratically elected government collapses. Mossadegh is arrested, tried for treason, placed under house arrest until his death. Shah Mohammad Reza Pahlavi, until then a secondary figure, takes back the reins of the country with an absolute power now guaranteed by Washington. For the Americans, it is a cold, clean victory. The oil stays within the Western sphere. Iran becomes a bulwark against Soviet expansion in the Middle East. For the Iranians, it is a deep national wound, a historical humiliation carved into collective memory. Democracy has been murdered by a foreign power, and the Shah, perceived as an American puppet, installs a dictatorship propped up by the Savak, his secret police, notorious for its brutal interrogation methods. For 26 years, the partnership between Washington and Tehran holds. The Shah modernizes the country at a forced pace. Petrodollars flood in. Iranian women gain the right to vote. Universities spring up across the cities. American engineers build infrastructure. On the surface, the Iran of the 1970s looks like a model ally, stable, Western-leaning, and pro-American. Beneath the surface, the anger rises. The Savak's repression suffocates every form of opposition. Shia clerics rallied around an exiled preacher in Paris, Ayatollah Ruhollah Khomeini, fuel a spiritual resistance that gains momentum in mosques, bazaars, and working-class neighborhoods. Then comes the winter of 1979. Millions of Iranians pour into the streets. The Shah's soldiers hesitate to fire. Some fraternize openly with the protesters. The regime wobbles. In February, Khomeini returns from exile to a deafening roar of welcome. Enormous crowds, faces lit with faith and accumulated fury, greet the Ayatollah as a liberator. The Islamic Revolution takes hold. The Shah flees. Decades of resentment explode in a matter of weeks. Washington watches stunned. Jimmy Carter, the American president, does not truly grasp what he is witnessing. His administration has underestimated the depth of the upheaval. And when the Shah, gravely ill with cancer, requests entry into the United States for medical treatment, Carter eventually agrees. On October 23, 1979, the deposed monarch steps onto American soil. In Tehran, the news spreads like wildfire. Thousands of students converge on the American embassy, a sprawling complex of buildings at the heart of the city. On November 4, 1979, they storm through the gates. The Marines on guard, caught off balance, do not resist. 52 American diplomats find themselves bound, blindfolded, and paraded in front of cameras broadcasting to the entire world. The images circle the globe. The greatest military power on the planet, humiliated by a group of angry students. 444 days. That is how long the negotiations, the threats, the rescue attempts, and the sanctions drag on. Carter freezes billions in Iranian assets held in American banks. He orders a military rescue operation, Operation Eagle Claw, in April 1980. Helicopters crash in the Iranian desert due to mechanical failures and blinding sandstorms. 8 American soldiers die. The operation collapses in chaos. One more humiliation, broadcast live. The hostages do not return home until January 20th, 1981, the very day Ronald Reagan is sworn into office at the White House, following secret negotiations that still fuel historical controversy to this day. Diplomatic relations between the two countries were severed permanently on April 7, 1980. From that day forward, no American embassy in Tehran, no Iranian embassy in Washington. Two nations that were once allies, now incapable of speaking to each other directly, staring at one another through a prism of accumulated distrust and bitterness. Sanctions pile up. Proxy forces clash in other people's wars. And in the underground laboratories of Natanz and Fordo, centrifuges spin in silence, enriching uranium, pushing Iran closer to a threshold that Washington swears it will never allow to be crossed. The trap has been set since 1953. The question is who and when will finally spring it shut. The trap set in 1953 never truly snapped shut. It reopened again and again with every passing decade, with growing violence and unpredictability. Because the two countries never settled the original debt, never acknowledged the wrongs, never rebuilt a direct relationship. So the crises kept coming, each one more dangerous than the last, each one pushing the two nations a little closer to the edge. We are in the 1980s. Iran and Iraq are locked in a war of archaic brutality. Trenches, mustard gas attacks, waves of Iranian teenagers sent to the front with a golden key hanging around their necks, a symbol of the paradise promised to martyrs. Washington backs Saddam Hussein, not out of idealism, out of cold calculation. Weaken revolutionary Iran, prevent Khomeini from exporting his theocracy across the region. American intelligence, lines of credit, and dual-use technologies all flow toward Baghdad. Simultaneously, in the shadows, that same Reagan administration secretly negotiates with Tehran. Arms for hostages. The Iran-Contra scandal breaks in 1986 and shakes Washington to its foundations. American credibility crumbles. Iran absorbs a lasting lesson. The Americans say one thing and do another. That visceral distrust embeds itself into the DNA of the Islamic Republic. It will never disappear. Then comes July 3, 1988, a day of oppressive heat over the Persian Gulf. The American cruiser USS Vincennes, on patrol in Iranian waters during the Iran-Iraq War, picks up a radar signal. The officers on board make a fatal decision. They shoot the aircraft down. 2 missiles strike Iran Air Flight 655. All 290 passengers die instantly, among them 66 children, a civilian airliner mistaken for a military target. Washington expresses regret but refuses any formal apology. In Iran, the memory of those 290 dead becomes one more symbol of American brutality, a permanent argument to justify the mistrust. The 1990s bring a relative lull. Iranian President Mohammad Khatami extends a hand, speaks of a dialogue between civilizations and proposes a cautious opening. Bill Clinton considers a rapprochement. Indirect discussions begin to take shape. Then everything collapses again. The hardliners in Tehran sabotage every diplomatic advance. The Revolutionary Guards, the Pasdaran Corps, consolidate their economic and military grip on the country. The window closes. September 11, 2001 changes everything and nothing. Iran, a Shia nation, despises al-Qaeda, a Sunni organization that slaughtered Shia Hazaras in Afghanistan. Tehran quietly cooperates with Washington in the opening weeks of the Afghan war. Intelligence is exchanged. An opening takes form. Then George W. Bush utters 3 words in his State of the Union address in January 2002. Axis of evil, Iran, Iraq, and North Korea, are branded enemies. The cooperation evaporates instantly. The Iranian diplomats who had facilitated the exchanges returned to Tehran humiliated. The hardline faction triumphs once more. And as Washington bogs down in Iraq after 2003, Iran harvests the fruits of the chaos. Iraqi Shia militias, funded and armed by Tehran, grow in influence. The Pasdarans extend their networks into Lebanon through Hezbollah, into Syria, into Yemen through the Houthis. An empire of proxies is methodically constructed, capable of striking American and Israeli interests without ever directly exposing Iranian soil. An asymmetric deterrence strategy that Washington consistently underestimates. The nuclear turning point. That is the file crystallizing every tension for 2 decades. In 2002, an opposition group reveals the existence of underground uranium enrichment facilities at Natanz. The world discovers a clandestine nuclear program far more advanced than imagined. Rounds of negotiations follow. The Vienna Agreement of 2015, painstakingly built by Barack Obama alongside the world's major powers, freezes the program in exchange for a partial lifting of sanctions, a fragile compromise criticized from both sides, but one that holds. Until 2018. Donald Trump signs the American withdrawal from the deal. With a single stroke of the pen, years of diplomacy are erased. The sanctions return harder than before. Iran resumes enrichment. The centrifuges accelerate. The international community watches powerless. And then January 2020. A night at Baghdad International Airport. A convoy of vehicles exits the terminal. American drones strike. General Qasem Soleimani, commander of the Quds Force of the Pasdarans, the architect of Iran's entire regional strategy for 20 years, dies in a burst of flames and shredded metal. The world holds its breath. Iran swears bloody revenge. Iranian ballistic missiles strike American bases in Iraq. Dozens of American soldiers suffer traumatic brain injuries. The spiral seems uncontrollable. Then both sides step back, just one pace. No full-scale war, but a level of tension unseen since 1979. This is where the story stands in 2026. 2 nations that have not spoken directly in 45 years. A grievance built layer by layer, betrayal after betrayal, crisis after crisis. An Iranian nuclear program at the doorstep of the military threshold. Proxy forces fighting across 5 countries simultaneously. And a terrifying economic arithmetic waiting to detonate if the weapons ever speak openly. Every crisis in this long rivalry has had a precise trigger. A coup financed in the shadows. An embassy stormed. A civilian aircraft shot down. An agreement dynamited. A general assassinated. Each time, officials on both sides believed they had the conflict under control. Each time, events outran their calculations. The history of the crises between the United States and Iran teaches one thing with relentless consistency. Half measures of escalation, calculated shows of force, signals sent to impress without igniting, rarely end where their architects intended. Wars often begin between peoples who never truly wanted to fight, carried forward by dynamics larger than themselves, by national pride, by promises impossible to walk back, by chains of alliances that turn a single spark into a firestorm. Since 1953, a trap has been laid. Since 1979, both nations have been living inside it. The real question is no longer whether another crisis will come. The question is whether this time someone will look back before crossing the final threshold, and whether history for once will carry enough weight to slow the hands of those who hold the controls.